In respect to Agyapa, which is a royalties company and fully owned by the Minerals Income Investment Fund, as honorable members are aware, this was put on hold. The main reason for Agyapa was to have the IPO done, both in England and Ghana. But for quite a number of factors or reasons, the president advised that this be put on hold. So Agyapa is on hold at the moment.
How much have you spent so far in relation to Agyapa?
I'll get the exact figure, but it should be should be around 12 million. 12 million? Yes.
Dollars?
$12 million, right? $12 million.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is hanging now?
Yes, Honorable Chair.
Okay. Minerals Income Investment Fund, through proposal from Minister of Finance and procurement of consultant, is convinced that establishment of Agyapa will inure to the benefit of people of Ghana.
I can't speak to the Ministry of Finance per se.
No, I haven't finished my statement.
Okay, all right.
So you have done all these due diligence. You realize that the project is fine. Then the president say, stop it. We have incurred $12 million. The president says, stop it. Without giving you any reason. Then you stop it.
No, that was not what it meant.
Why? Doesn't mean that if the president says stop something, we have incurred spend people's money. The president can't give you the, oh, what you are doing, let's hold on because of A, B, C, D. Just stop it and then you stop it. Why?
Honorable Chair, I believe a review was requested based on several considerations, including certain reports.
So I want you to share that consideration with us. It will help the committee to say that, because of this consideration, it has been put on hold.
Honorable Chair, unfortunately, I don't have those considerations with me because I believe, I think it was quite enumerated in Parliament, but I don't have the considerations with me. We could look at providing.
Well, so that is the Public Accounts Committee Chair, James Klucha-Veggie, there, asking some further questions after it has emerged this week that government spent some $12 million on the suspended Agyapa royalties deal. You heard the CEO of the Minerals Income Investment Fund, Edward Anaya Okranting, disclosing before the Public Accounts Committee sitting this week and the details that he gave. Murtala Mohammed is member of this committee we are talking about. Now, after this detail was given, which we didn't know until this week, what questions are you going to be asking of that particular sector or that office or the government with respect to who were the beneficiaries of this $12 million? What expenditure was it used to pay for? And what has been the benefit thereof? Because as far as we do know now, the Agyapa deal has been suspended upon the directive of President Akufo-Addo. So what's going to happen next after we know that $12 million has been expended?
Well, anybody who underestimated the thievery, the robbery that the people of this country have been subjected to by President Nana Addo and his gang of appointees, then such a person should rethink. Mind you, this is not the first time the issue of Agyapa came to light. But it is important to put in perspective what occasioned all this. The Auditor General audits accounts or the finances or the books of public institutions. And when they finish with their report, they would then submit the report to Parliament. They submit it to Mr. Speaker, and Speaker will refer it to the appropriate committee, and in this case, the Public Accounts Committee, a committee which I have the privileged opportunity to be a member. I know that in the past, there were a lot of criticisms about the committee. My professor here, they all raised concerns about the operations of the committee and the fact that we had a backlog. Sometimes you'll be looking at issues that happened 10 years ago. I think that this committee, and led by Honorable Aveji, ought to be recommended. Currently, we are looking at the 2022 Auditor General's report. So we're taking away the backlog. And if you observed, last year we worked virtually the entire year. Sometimes in the course of Parliament, who would have to go around doing the work we are doing. And if you observe in Parliament, and my senior is here, the attrition rate of members of Parliament losing their primaries and general elections are members of the Public Accounts Committee. At the time when your colleagues are in their constituencies, you'll be going around the country doing this. So the attrition rate on the committee is very, very high. So I think that Honorable Abeji and the entire team ought to be commended for having cleared the backlog. And we are currently dealing with the 2022 Auditor General's report, because naturally there must always be 1 year, because you have to do that of the previous year. Absolutely. So once we're able to finish with 2022, unfortunately, Honorable Abeji is no longer coming to Parliament. The ranking member, a person who the Minister for Finance, I'm told, went to his constituency, campaigned for his brother to win. He's also no longer coming. So the enormous experience that these two individuals have, will be lost to the committee. So I think it ought to look at. So once the Auditor General submits his report, and then the report is referred to the Public Accounts Committee, you then have this public hearing. The rationale behind the public hearing is to afford the people who have been cited for some infractions by the Auditor General the opportunity to come and explain themselves. So when we are seated, you have Auditor General staff who are also there. There are instances that people have appeared before us, and we realize that the Auditor General was wrong in some of the decisions and the conclusions they arrived at. There are also instances we realize that the Auditor General underestimated, the gravity of, if you like, the rot or the thievery that would have or might have occasioned as a result of those people working. So there are a lot of reasons. And I even had a conversation with the acting Auditor General, and my position was that he needs to be quantifying the amount of monies that people have paid. But for the Public Accounts Committee, those monies wouldn't have been paid. Because when people are cited and they know that they will be appearing before the Public Accounts Committee publicly, some of them will quickly go and make the necessary payment. And the state would have lost all those monies. Now, on this specific matter, the Mineral Income Investment Fund, led by the CEO, the person you just showed on your program.
Okay, but not to interrupt, but before we go into this matter, why do you sometimes ask some of the people who have diverted public funds to private use, their own personal use, to either refund? How much of a deterrence would the refund of stolen money be to people who intend to steal? And that's what we keep...
No, we always afford people who have been cited the opportunity to explain. And that is why I say that when we are seated, you have Auditor General staff who are also there. In fact, this case, Deputy Auditor Generals are always present. Sometimes the people will come and give explanation. If the committee is convinced that, look, it was not a deliberate, if you like, infraction, they may be asked to refund the money. But you see, when we finish with our work and then we submit the report to Parliament, it then be looked at by plenary, that is the entire House. And the plenary would then take a decision on the work we have done. There are instances that the committee reports, the entire House will say, no, we disagree with this based on the information that is provided and the debate. I'll give a classical example. Francis Essam. Francis Essam was engaged in a lot of financial infractions. When we're looking at the 2021 or the 2020 Auditor General's report, the entire committee, which is made up of both NDC and MPP, unanimously agreed that Francis Essam be prosecuted. We brought the report to plenary, and it was adopted.
Parliament adopted.
Yes, we adopted. So at the committee, you have
recommendation.
Yes, at the committee, we have equal numbers of MPP, NDC. Yes. We all agree unanimously that Francis Essam and her dealings at the cylinder manufacturing company should be prosecuted. We brought the report to plenary, and it was adopted that she should be prosecuted. So once you bring a report, and the Parliament agrees with the report, it means that report would then be adopted. Now, after all these things are done, Parliament then communicates to to government through the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. Because after the report is adopted by Parliament, Parliament ceases to have any control over it again. It then becomes the property of government through the Minister of Justice and Attorney, which has a prosecutorial authority.
Right.
As we see today, and I have been talking about this, Francis Essam is still a woman walking freely. I'm not saying that she cannot go to court and exonerate herself, but that is only determined by a court of competent jurisdiction. So why is it that government through the Minister of Justice and Attorney General is not acting upon that? So when we hear people criticize Public Accounts Committee, the impression is created as if once we are done with our work and agreed with the Auditor General in terms of the infractions occasioned by individuals or institutions, then we have the capacity also to prosecute. We don't have that capacity.
Well, would you want to have that capacity?
Of course, no. You see, I mean, we have operating separation of powers, and that's why,
Okay,
and that's why people have argued that we should decouple the Ministry of Justice from the Ministry of Attorney General. But what I'm just saying is that we are done with our work. We submit our work to the executive through the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General that has the power to prosecute. Now, if they are not prosecuting, and then you want to hang the inability of government through the Ministry prosecuting on Public Accounts Committee and Parliament, you'll be unfair. You'll be treating us unfairly. So
Well,
I'm saying
we've
that
seen instances where the clerk to Parliament fails to communicate some of these things you're talking about to the Attorney
yeah, but I'm
General's
saying
office.
that on this
came up
matter, I am
this-
aware that the necessary communication was done. Because when I raised this issue, the information I got was that government was communicated to through the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. So I'm just making this point so that the public would appreciate the level of seriousness we attach to this. Mind you, the Public Accounts Committee has the power of a High Court.
Precisely. And you see, my concern is that consistently, every year, we have almost similar infractions of procurement breaches, diversion of public funds, unearned salaries, and so on and so forth. It happens on a yearly basis. The Auditor General captured this in the report. Public Accounts Committee sits, you talk about it. Another year we come, we talk about the same thing. Clearly, if there's any punishment at all, people are not being deterred.
The powers
not to do those things.
The
again.
powers the committee
But I
has.
thought he's explained
that-
that
yes.
it will have to.
Yes.
The
But there are
we'll
some,
start with the-
there
with
are-
the-
there are
with the
some,
ministry-
there are
the
some
AG.
like unearned
Yeah.
salaries, for
You
instance.
see, the powers.
It doesn't have to go to the AG.
When I say we have the powers of a higher court in respect of orders and not trial, you see, that's the difference.
Right.
But let me just zero on this specific matter.
Okay.
So the Mineral Income Investment Fund appeared before our committee in the matter of an infractions that they have been cited to avocation, financial infractions, by the Auditor General. Now, we had this interaction with them, which was carried, live. Now, a specific question was asked on the Agyapa Deal because they handled the Agyapa Deal. Some shocking revelations came up. I know that policy is not generated at the institutions or the ministry. In fact, the power, the capacity to generate policy is done by the executive. So the decision to invest in the Agyapa Deal was a decision taken by the Minister of Finance. That was the information we got first and foremost. Now, they were then asked to implement that decision, which is a program. They have the capacity to do that which we're supposed to do. Instead, the Minister for Finance and the Minister of Finance and Government decided to engage consultants to do the work that you have these technical people at the MIF who were clothed with the capacity to have done the work. They then got so-called investors to do that. We demanded that they give us a list of the investment. In fact, I asked that specific question.
The list of the
The
consultants.
list of the consultants that they use.
Okay.
They also said that they had to establish an office in Ghana and in London. And that was when the chairman asked how much they have spent so far. And they have spent over $12 million. People are underestimating these figures. $12 million is over 120 million Ghana cedis, because a dollar is more than 12 cedis today. So even if you want to look at it as 12 cedis, $12 million is over 120 million Ghana cedis. Kolebu, there was a problem just recently, and they needed just 4 million Ghana cedis to fix that problem, to prevent people from losing their lives. National service persons are not being paid for about 4 months now. These are young men and young women who struggle to go and discharge their responsibility. Service to this state. Dr. Baumia is telling us that they would abolish it. I mean, it's not well thought through. That the reason why you have national service is not just to engage them, but to instill some sense of patriotism in them. Okay. Let them appreciate that the state spends some money to educate them, and therefore they must also contribute and to. But Dr. Baumia is going to abolish it. They haven't been paid. Government touted itself as implementing teacher and nursing trainee allowances. They have not been paid. Our roads are not being fixed. The 120 million Ghana cedis That 120 million Ghana cedis could have built a lot of schools. We still have schools where children are sitting under trees. So that money is huge. Now, the president, and this is the shocking aspect of it, the president decided to halt the process. Of course, we are operating an executive government. But the power to exercise that authority must not and ought not be exercised arbitrarily. Unfortunately, in this case, that was what happened. The president decided to halt, and I wanted to find out whether their views were taken into consideration, because the president ought to have provided reasons. Let no one tell me that the president doesn't need to provide reasons why he decided to halt the process. We are talking about over $12 million that had been spent so far. So now, the president decided to halt the process, and we wanted to find out whether there was official communication between MIF and the presidency. There was any official communication.
The CEO said they were not officially communicated to?
No any official. Yes, that's what he told us. No any official communication. And that the only communication that he is aware of has to do with the communication to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. And for me, that is extremely shocking. I mean, if for nothing at all, if the president decided to halt the process, conscious of the fact that over $12 million had been spent already, the president would have sought the views of the very implementers of the program, who worked on the thing and who appreciated. Maybe perhaps they would have given a contrary view, which would have informed the president not to go ahead. Assuming that it was just a political decision to do so, must that political decision, the authority to make a political statement and take a position that would be binding on us, be exercised with alacrity as the president did? To be very honest, I find it extremely difficult to see any semblance of independent state institutions being operated under this government. And President Nanado runs this country not just as, he doesn't run this country like an elected president. He runs this country like a king. Like a king, he decides what he does at any point in time.
Of the Agyapa deal.
So as we see today,
beyond this revelation, what I want to find out is, what is the Public Accounts Committee going to do for us to get some more answers to?
We demanded information. We demanded information from them. We wanted to know those consultants, and some of us are picking some information that are extremely shocking, and I can't put it here until we get the facts. We wanted to know the faces behind those so-called consultants.
Okay.
We want to know the gravity. In fact, the information we are picking is that the monies they spent was even more than the $12 million. The money spent on Agyapa Deal was more than the $12 million. What had been the relationship between the Minister for Finance, members within the Akufo-Addo's family, and the so-called consultants? And I think that these are legitimate questions that people ask. Let no one tell me that we sit here and then we pick on Nanado. He is managing our taxes, and therefore we have a duty to demand accountability from him at any point in time. So all those informations are supposed to be provided to us. We're expecting those information maximum within a week or two. As and when the information is submitted to the clerk of the committee, we certainly will reconvene, and then we would be able to dig deep to find out how much of the taxpayers' money was spent on something that the president decided that I'm not going to go ahead with it without even communicating to the people who were handling it, without communicating to the people of this country. Remember when this issue came up and the Minister for Finance appeared before Parliament? Remember the debate? He appeared condescending, disrespectful, disregard to Parliament. He was unwilling to provide us with information. Now the Sky train, you remember? That one, yes. $2 million was spent. If you add it to this $12 million, you are talking about $14 million. That's over 140 million Ghana cedis. That is huge. How much of such monies have been spent in other agencies that we are unaware of? And I think that when we ask these legitimate questions, people must understand. Yet the president sees nothing wrong with that. What he sees about us,
and that's why I keep going back to
what
we're going to do to get more further and better particulars beyond this $12 million that we're told has been spent. So you say in the next 2 weeks, the Ghanaian people should expect some response from the Public Accounts Committee with respect to the details of how this $12 million was expended, the consultants who were paid, and then all the other expenditures that makes up for this 12 million. And that's what people bring you in at this point, especially about the workings of this committee, because of what we are treated to as a people every year. The revelations of the infractions and then the questionable engagements and transactions that leads to the loss of public funds, which could have been put to other use. How can the committee's work be made a bit more impactful? Because in other jurisdictions, I mean, 2 years ago, I spent a brief moment in Uganda where they have a semblance of the Public Accounts Committee. When these heads of state institutions appear before them, if you're not able to answer correctly or competently for some of the monies allotted to you, there's a policeman standing right there. Right there, you are arrested. And you see the impact, at least the consistent decline in public sector corruption over the period. Should that be the path to go?
Yes, we can consider that, Mr. Okansi. We can. Because what it is that one of the factors militating against the effectiveness of this Public Accounts Committee is the fact that the reports, as he said, end up on the desk of the AG if you are asking for prosecution. And this is not the first time. Francis Esiamso is not the first one. There have been times in the past that the Public Accounts Committee asked for prosecutions. I heard some in the media. And then that's it. So there's no follow-through. No follow-through. Meanwhile, you look at Article 187, Clause 6, and it says that Parliament should have a committee to deal with such matters. So let's see. It says, 6, Parliament shall debate the report of the Auditor General and appoint, where necessary in the public interest, a committee to deal with any matters arising from it. See, the emphasis is arising. I know in the past there was a certain committee that they said they were setting up or had set up to follow through after you were done. Now we don't hear about it. Is it still in existence?
You see, the point is that even the clerk of Parliament too, you see, he needs to ensure that the writings are done. So the processes, once the clerk writes to the Minister of Justice and Attorney General, it is then off the hands of Parliament.
We can't continue doing this off the hands. No, there should be a duty to continue to watch over, to make sure that there's a logical conclusion. Because can you imagine, even when we met Johnson Esedu, the Equiamwa, the Auditor General, about 2 years ago, well, the same 2022, when we had a demonstration about the disallowance and surcharge. He said when Parliament is done, do you know, even the reports that are done by the committee, they send to the ministries, etc. He's not even copied. That's what the Auditor General told us in the meeting. He said when Parliament, you are done, the auditees, your comments and recommendations, you send to the ministries, he is not copied directly. So, and actually he was at pains to point that it's as if it's deliberate. And there were, you could read in between the lines that there was more that he could say. But once again, because of the politics, he didn't. And so the sense I gathered from it is that there is that dysfunctional or dysfunction which is deliberate. So we should throw more scrutiny on it. Parliament cannot just finish and say we've made recommendations to Attorney General and then washes its hands off it. No, you've sent recommendations to Attorney General. What stops you from writing 2 months down the line? What has happened? 6 months, 1 year on. We should do that. Thankfully now you have research assistants, all the parliamentarians. Yes, so you can agree that you beef up the capacity of your research assistants to write those letters on your behalf. Something, So we have to be innovative. So I think Parliament itself has not asserted enough authority because the thing is in there. Article 187 clause.
187.
Clause 6. It says that to deal with matters arising from it. So if you merely write a recommendation to the Attorney General and you don't follow through to see to its logical conclusion, have you dealt with it? It says deal with matters arising from the report. Deal. So just sending a recommendation doesn't cut master. It doesn't. And that is what we should be looking at. Because you look at it and you're like, no. Why should we continue these things? And sometimes you get the impression that, when each government comes, they do themselves some favors. So let's say Party A. Yes, knows it.
No,
there are some of the cases. No, we hear those things. They cut deals. It's not every case that they will prosecute. There are some of the cases you go and then you sort out the new government officers and then party people. Some people don't have official positions, but they can take money and kill your case. Those kind of things. So when you see this Auditor General report, some of these things not getting prosecuted, then you understand that maybe those are some of the deals being cut too. This has to stop. It just has to stop. So apart from that, and it's good he's also brought in the question of decoupling the office of the Attorney General from the Minister of Justice. Yes, that thing, it's back. It's back on the table. The UK, where we copied a lot of our laws from and we take a lot of inspiration from, that is their practice. The Attorney General is separate and distinct from the Minister of Justice. The Attorney General is a politician. Of course, the Minister for Justice will also be. But when you separate them, then you know that the Minister for Justice, his main work will be to see to, these cases, improving the justice system, etc., right? So if you're able to do it in that manner, what we're expecting is that he will have a reason to push. Because if he doesn't push for those right things to be done, the public will hold him accountable, even if the president is not. Right? So let's look at the UK system where we have copied a lot of our laws and see how they have separated the Attorney General from the Minister for Justice, because there's still need for it. You remember, this was the debate, this decoupling. That was the debate. Then eventually it appeared, we're just thinking about only the criminal prosecution. So eventually when the OSP matter caught favor, I mean, like every administration was interested in it, then it appeared, we had found a solution. If we have an office of special prosecutor, then we don't need to decouple. But in no time, we've seen that there are still issues. There are still issues because issues coming from the Public Accounts Committee, those cases, not all of them border on bribery and corruption. So we can't take those cases to the, the special prosecutor. But we will still need to get those people prosecuted. So there is still that need. So that we'll get some independence. If we can't do the decoupling, then we should be looking at, under the law, the Attorney General can delegate powers to public officers to prosecute. Then Parliament should find prosecutors so that...
To do that.
Yes, because currently, for Senate cases, Attorney General is given authority. So Senate has prosecutors, Forestry Commission, all right.
Even Minister of Trade on this.
But in fact, that reference you make to the special prosecutor, I've just got somebody, in fact, a source within the special prosecutor's office says, because the Attorney General does not determine what cases OSP prosecutes, if it's not corruption, then they have to refer to the Attorney General who controls police and IOCO prosecutions. Because if it falls under corruption and you send to AG instead of the OSP, the Attorney General can ignore it. And OSP can't go into it because it is not aware of it.
Yes, so that's the point we're making. That, you see, I just made a point before you read it. So let's repeat, it helps. Yes, so we're saying that we've seen that not all of those cases arising from the reports of the Auditor General are bribery and corruption. So as soon as we find that not all are, then it means that we need to put in place a system to ensure that those other cases which are not bribery and corruption are also prosecuted. Yes, that is the point. Right. So we need more sunshine. We need more sunshine. And then perhaps, I think, because even for the OSP, under their law, they don't always even need a complainant. When they hear things in public, they can jump in. So maybe the OSP, last year they got eventually about 249 new employees. Maybe they should have employees sitting at the Public Accounts Committee and following by themselves. So when they see a corruption case, they themselves will take it. They shouldn't sit back. Yes, they shouldn't sit back and expect that when it goes to the Attorney General will bring it to them. No, they should deploy some employees to go and sit.
The thing is carried live on national television.
Yes, so you don't need to. Yes, like national security, you can sit in your own office and monitor the radios and all that. Yes, they should do that. They should be more proactive than being reactive, that they will wait for Attorney General to refer anything to them. No.
Fantastic. Lawyer Agyapa Deal.
Yes, thank you very much.
That's whether this recommendation is going to
But why do you always want to come to me late?
No. It's because you always would
I will
come
not
before.
I will not
enjoy the benefit of our submission.
I will sit here.
Enjoy the benefit of our
Absolutely.
But this has been a very interesting discussion, particularly on this subject matter. And the direction my good friend Martin points out, the solution actually is in Article 187.
He's not your good friend. You were fighting him.
Oh, but good friends don't fight. Yes.
The businessman.
Yes.
The businessman.
You see.
Okay.
The solution comes from Article 1876. Indeed, as you rightly put it, I think Parliament will not have done its work finally by not going beyond your findings and appointing the committees to further investigate, find out why, and bring us new direction as to how to prosecute these matters. So the solution lies there. Again, let us try to find a distinction between corruption and stealing. In most cases, from the committee's report, the findings are not corruption cases. They are stealing, naked stealing by public officers.
By stealing, not corruption.
No, they are different.
They are all criminal offenses.
Yes, but the elements are different. You understand? So
you want us to qualify?
Yes,
like
if it's stealing, it's stealing.
And his government are stealing.
Okay.
Stealing.
No.
You see, this is the thing I don't like.
I want to start
We are talking about
General,
concepts,
let's
legal concepts. And you want to bring
I'm substituting the corruption to stealing.
Please stay on course.
You see, sometimes when we package it as corruption like that, there is indication of public officers involved in a give and take somewhat kind of thing. But most of these findings are stealing of public resources, not corruption, as somebody giving material wealth for you to influence, for it to influence your decision. No, these are public officers who are stealing public funds, and we should categorize them as such and put them in that case. It goes to Attorney General's office directly, not Office of Special Prosecutor. So when we distinguish between the two, then we can call upon the state institutions to continue with the investigation. But this critical aspect of forming a committee to investigate further and bring us more information for the sake of prosecution is very relevant. Indeed, we will have to push for such things happening now. Because it's easy for maybe Attorney General's office to say that we don't have further and better particulars of the offenses you are complaining about, and therefore we don't have the capacity to continue with the prosecution. Again, one thing I have always thought must happen in Ghana, test the law on whether or not the Attorney General himself can be issued with a mandamus orders to undertake certain national assignments. Right. It is not within the ambit of the Attorney General to comfortably say in the office, I'll prosecute this, I won't prosecute that, and that kind of thing. It must not be selective. It does not have the luxury of discretion in matters like this. And I want us to, in fact, even when matters go to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court is not acting administratively to get a matter before the court, maybe even impaneling, you see, let's test the law. Put the Chief Justice before the court with mandamus application and let the court direct that person to do that which your office requires you to do. You see, sometimes we are very shy of pursuing the law to its logical conclusion. So, in this case, if Parliament appoints a committee to further do the investigation,
right,
you come out with your findings and you put it before the Attorney General. Attorney General is disinterested in prosecuting. Will that be the end of your investigation?
It appears that's what's the case with the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes, but I want to believe that the law provides a remedy. And the remedy is that put that public officer, and all of us are public officers, put that public officer before the law. And with an application, please, we came to investigate this. We have make these findings. We have given you a report, so and so date. And up till now, we are not finding any right to, the law says that right to him as a committee or as a new committee formed by the Parliament.
No, even the committee.
Or the committee, right to Attorney General. We have submitted.
But it's not the committee, it's the clerk of Parliament.
Yes, the clerk of Parliament. Or even the committee appointed by the Committee of Parliament. You see, the law allows you to appoint a committee to do further investigation. So that committee can also write to Attorney General, say that we have submitted a report based on this, and we have made our findings on this, and we think that we have brought to you the elements of that crime for you to continue with prosecution. We are reminding you that you are under obligation under the law to carry out prosecution of this matter. He wouldn't respond. Then you serve him with a reminder. We are further reminding you that pursuant to the letter given to you, also attached with the report, you have still not performed, and that we are giving you our reason to go to court to compel you to perform your assignment. Then he doesn't respond to that one also, and then you go to court and say, court, I have given this report to Attorney General. We have advised him on 2 occasions, even reminded him on his obligation. He hasn't done that. So compel him to undertake that prosecution. And let's see what the court will say. And if the court says compel him and he doesn't, then contempt action would have matured. Then you go again and say, the court even ordered him to undertake this prosecution. He has still refused to do it. So cite him for contempt. Then contempt is a quasi-criminal. It becomes a matter of that person holding that office. We commit somebody like that to prison for contempt. And then let's all understand that when you take public office, you are under certain obligations to do certain functions. But if Parliament finishes with this report and sends it to Attorney General, and it ends there, and it is at the whims of the Attorney General to take a decision whether or not to prosecute, then all the work undertaken, and don't worry, mind you, we would have expended a lot of resources to come to that position. The sittings, the invitations, sometimes the committee will have to travel to certain destinations at the expense of the public. All these things done, and at the end of the day, nothing happens. Then if we didn't even start the investigation, probably we'll be better off. So my take is that let's push the law to its final and logical conclusion, because if halfway, we are losers twice, because the people will have stolen our monies, and we would have expended money in the investigation, and we don't get anything back in return. And that is most unfair. So the Minerals and Income Investment Fund, created as a public entity, then they go out also to outsource a function under the same public
which they have
institution,
the capacity to perform.
which they have the capacity to perform, outsources to a private entity, whether with justification or not. And I'm happy that the man will have to come back and bring us the justification for doing that. Right. And let us follow it also and see. And when such matters come, what I don't like is the politicization of national issues like that. This one, it is not clothed with any partisan.
Which one?
Indeed.
No, the investigation into this fund. Yes.
It's partisan.
Why should
it was
be
done by an elected government representing a political party. It's politics.
No. That is where we all miss the boat.
Okay.
Well, how do you miss the boat?
My brother, let me finish.
Okay. Me, I want you to finish.
State institution, Minerals Income Investment Fund, created by an act of parliament.
Appointed by who?
Look, there must be a Ghanaian to be appointed as head. Okay. So it is still a public institution. In their dealings, this is one function they should have undertaken. They have created, outsourced it to a private entity.
Right.
Under what circumstances the investigation should continue through the parliamentary committee. When we come to the point that we have lost as a country so much money to entity A, B, C, D, which is private, and we have investigated and we have found that these funds have been disbursed wrongly, let us see it as an attack on the state, not any political party or anything or political person. So prosecute the agenda as a national exercise.
Really?
And yes, the prosecution cannot be partisan.
Okay.
This is what I'm suggesting. The moment you introduce partisanship, then people begin to take positions.
How?
I think that this is an offense against the state. And indeed, when you go to court, you are going republic basis.
Offense against the state by people who were politically appointed. What do you mean by that?
Forget about the
They are political appointees. They are political appointees.
Listen, the appointment will have to come
They are
from
political
somebody.
appointees.
Okay.
Oh, please.
Thank you.
The appointment will have to come from somebody. And if that appointment is being done and you are opposed to it, you have the necessary structures to use to stop
appoint.
it.
Okay.
In fact, the appointment, most of them even come to Parliament for approval. And when we will approve it, we are still saying that somebody else appointed them because of political considerations, when you are also part of the process of appointment. So what I'm saying is that, notwithstanding the processes of appointment, at that point where we engage you for public position, you are a public appointee, and therefore whatever you do is for the public. If you do something inimical to the interests of the public, let the public prosecute you. That is why you go to court and you are fighting against the state as an accused person. And I am saying that let us go beyond laying the report with the Attorney General into engaging him to continue with prosecution so that we can find the results.
So
if Attorney General is not doing his work, there are ways of also getting him to do it,
including the order
including
of
the
mandamus
order of mandamus
that you are-
and
you're
possible
proposing.
contempt application to him to put him before.
Okay,
the
Professor
court.
Jambo, and there's a good reason why I always reserve the last shot for you, because in the end, you cap it all up as to how this PAC, I'm talking of Public Accounts Committee's work, can be more impactful than we are seeing now.
All right, so you see, as a nation, I went for a conference somewhere outside the country, and somebody was criticizing us, Ghana. We are always the first to begin something, first to do this, first to do that, first to achieve it, but last on virtually everything. So we are quick to set up state institutions, but also quick to make these state institutions weak, dysfunctional, inoperative, and powerless. So we can quickly take our constitution and say, oh, look at our 1992 constitution. It contains so much. But all the institutions provided for under this constitution, we ourselves have rendered them powerless, dysfunctional, inoperative, and incompetent. Look, one of the reasons why I'm told President Akufo-Addo did not follow through the proposal for constitution review was that he believed that with the right caliber of person in charge, even a bad constitution can be worked such that you would not exploit its loopholes to satisfy one's personal agenda. So I believe that this area of our governance process has been there for a long time. We've been saddled with this problem of the Public Accounts Committee for a long time. Unfortunately, since 1992, we haven't had leaders who are bent on identifying some of the... It's not even identifying. The problems are always staring us in the face. We've not had leaders who say, this is the problem, and so this is how we can fix it.
Commitment.
Yeah, we have always had leaders who look on. They look at the problem and then they give up. They look at the problem and they pretend the problems do not even exist. Because these PAC problems, we've had them over and over and over. So Ghana, when are we going to have that kind of leadership?
Prof,
who would look at...
Please give me one minute. I think under the Constitution, Article 41F, there is also a request on every citizen to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse of and waste of public funds and property. Okay. I think we should take advantage of this provision of the Constitution and go to court.
Well, but you see, no, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to do that if you have an enlightened.
Let's agree on this platform that we go to court to challenge all the abuses and these people, relying on the report of the committee, and let's see what the court.
Well, you see, the role of the citizenry comes to the fore if you have an enlightened citizenry. One of the challenges of every developing country is that, apart from the fact that it is very poor and underdeveloped, it also has a problem of an unenlightened citizenry. That is how come in the framers of our constitution, they saw the need to enlighten the citizenry through civic education by creating the National Commission for Civic Education.
Indeed.
Now, politicians wanting to outsmart the system and the process have decided to financially suffocate the National Commission for Civic Education in perpetuity, because an enlightened citizenry is a disadvantage to the politician. And so we don't know this. How many? You are just referring to it. Okay, if you don't, how many of us have access
we
to
have sacrificed
the constitution
to provide our services.
Okay, so no, the point is that, I mean, that's the two of you, but there are so many things that we don't know. Okay, and it is given that it is not in the interest of the politician for the citizen to be enlightened. They do all they can to ensure ignorance. Okay, and so that is our problem. So I'm asking myself, when will we get the kind of leadership that will look into the faces of our problems and would not only be seeking to be ticking the boxes in terms of solving them, but they will fashion out credible, proactive, and sensible solutions to them.
Right.
It appears that this has eluded us. Public Accounts Committee has been there since 1992, and we see their problem. For now, you see, their work
They were even there in the revolutionary time.
Their work is an unnecessary waste on the resources of the nation, to the extent that, you see, they can do whatever they want to do, but it will not, their recommendations will not be carried out to their logical conclusion.
I humbly disagree with
no,
that.
So I'll give you the chance to come, but you made this point, and I you see, my heart started beating.
Yeah.
You making reference to a situation where, after extensive work, okay, after serious wastage or usage of our resources to unearth a certain matter a certain matter that ought to be prosecuted, okay, you met that recommendation, okay, and it was never carried out up till now. So the point is that, I mean, what is the point? The point is that we are not interested in spending our resources to do all the work, identifying the problem, calling for the solution, and the solution will not be there, will not be implemented.
That's just one leg of it.
Okay, so my point.
Can I humbly make this point? It's my supervisor, so I'm being very careful. The point I'm making is that, yes, you know, so
what is corruption about?
So the point I'm making is that, first and foremost, if you look at it in that way, that would be too simplistic. I have indicated that people have gone to make payments because of they being slated to appear before the Public Accounts Committee. But for the Public Accounts Committee, those monies wouldn't have been paid. And I stated here that I have also even personally spoken with the Acting Auditor General, quantified the amount of money people have paid because they are dreading to appear before the Public Accounts Committee. But for the Public Accounts Committee, they wouldn't have paid that money, and the state would have lost a lot of money. But you see, on one breath, Parliament would have done its work per the constitutional arrangement. The responsibility to prosecute is not within the control of Parliament. So I'm saying that we can look at it. If Parliament is able to discharge, or the committee is able to discharge that which they are tasked to do, if they are able to do it, we need to praise them for that. However, what can they do further with all of us, based on even the article that he read? It's not necessarily even Parliament, to ensure that we get to conclusion the work that Public Accounts Committee had actually started. If we are not able to get to the conclusion, then we have a problem. My difficulty is when we say that we spend money, we think that it's a complete waste.
I think I'm an academic. I give in to superior wisdom. If you are telling me that but no, people fearing or dreading to appear before the PAC have gone to make payments, Nicodemously, so that they don't appear. I mean, it's a good thing. Yeah. Okay, but how many instances do you have? Okay, so the point is that I am looking at a point or situation where we would get to in our epoch of democratic development where the PAC and its work, its recommendations would get to logical conclusions. If they say that somebody ought to be prosecuted, it should not be whimsically or capriciously determined by the by government or by the Attorney General as to whether this one I want to do it or I don't want to do it. Okay, otherwise then what are we doing as and so my point is that so when will we get the caliber of leadership that would look at all, you see, governance? The Constitution is a fundamental document of the land that regulates and prescribes how everything ought to be done. Okay, so when will we get the type of leadership that would go into the Constitution and make some of these proactive and drastic amendments with the view to ensuring that the Constitution works to deliver, to deliver
of the people.
On the expectations of the people? It appears that here we see problems and then we turn a blind eye to them, and then it recurs. I mean, you were trying to commend the PAC by saying that now they are looking at 2022 reports. What prevents us from getting to a time where we are just at the beginning of 2024? When we'll be looking at 2023, maybe they have.
But we used to have 10 years.
They have had, they've improved. But I think more work will have to be done. And as a nation, I'm making the point again. It appears that we are always in a hurry, quick to set up institutions, just to defend it. When President Akufo-Addo set up the Special Prosecutor's Office of Special Prosecutor, we hailed him. But if you hear Kisi Jaben talking, we have set up the institution but defended it such that it cannot even fly. True. So we are always in the habit of ticking the boxes. I've done this. I've done, without putting our soul and heart into such achievements that we claim to have chalked, and it doesn't help us. So I think that Ghana, we have a lot of things. We have a long way to go in terms of even the caliber of people who aspire to lead us. See, now there are so many manifesto promises. There are so many. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do. Everybody is telling us what they are going to do. But I'm telling them that it is not what you tell us you are going to do that matters. It is what you have done. It is what you really do. And to the politicians, let me make the point again. In the 2024 elections, the outcome is not going to be determined by the numerous heavenly promises that you make to Ghanaians. People are tired of the kinds of things that politicians tell them when they see the crowd. It is not going to move anybody. It is going to be a side-by-side comparison of achievements, track record, integrity, resilience, what one has done before. That is what is going to sway voters. And so let us cut the numerous things we say we are going to be doing, and let us look at problems that are persistent now, problems that are existing now, look into the faces of those problems and solve them. It is when we have shown commitment to addressing the current problems that we will be able to build a certain goodwill, in the minds of Ghanaians, so that that would shape their voter behavior. It's not about, we see this problem. We have not fixed public accounts committee problem, and yet it is there, and yet we keep promising we are going to do this, we are going to do that, Are we a promising nation, a nation of promises?
There's some news just coming through.
Promises. What is wrong with that?
This information is very important. Prof, as we sit today, the 2023 Auditor General report from the Auditor General, Auditor General's report has not been released. So what we are dealing with is the last Auditor General's report, that is the 2022. That's why I
Okay,
said
I have a
ought
message
to
from
recommend.
another member of the Public Accounts Committee, Kofi Adams, for the Member of Parliament for the Boem constituency, says the 2023 Auditor General's report is yet to be released. I think that's the point you are making. It will be released in June. The only report available is the 2022 report.
but
So we can't be looking at the 2023 report
When it is
because
not
it is
reported.
not ready.
They have to do it.
Okay,
Well,
so we are up to
No,
date.
it's okay. You are, wait, but you see, your work is also contingent on the work of another
Committee.
institution.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Prof, our
So,
position,
we are not-
Prof, our
Right.
position is
Thank
that
you. Thank
we
you.
have done that which
That-
we are
that's-
constitutionally mandated to do. It is now left with the other arm of government, in this case, the executive to prosecute.
Okay,
Today
there's-
you have been briefed that you haven't finished because you can set up another committee to continue your work.
And individual citizens can also even go to court.
Indeed. Thank you.
You have also
Thank you,
elected to be
gentlemen.
the
Thank you
plaintiff
very
in
much.
that matter.
Yes,
There is
I have.
let me put this
But
on record.
Ahmed, one thing.
Please,
The people who come to pay upon realizing that they are to appear before the committee, they cannot exonerate themselves from prosecution.
Right.
Because the intention is established, the act would have been done because by taking the money, if they come to pay subsequent.
No, they
that
don't come to the committee to pay.
No.
If they know that they are
if they
appearing
know-
before the
yes,
committee, then they
then
would have
they'll
gone
pay.
to make the payment.
Yes, but even at that point, they would have committed the offense. They have taken the money, they have shown the intention, and therefore the criminality has been established.